and welcome to the Trout Spinners podcast. I am one of your hosts, Miles Fennell. Across the way on a Skype screen in sunny Brighton is Mr. GF.
No, I'm Gary Forrestal, but I don't want to be called GF. But go on.
How are you doing?
Not too bad, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Good, thanks very much for saying that. And
I've actually got a few things I want to get off my chest before we begin this episode.
It's the things we've just been talking about off air.
No. I would never recycle poor Joe.
No, it was
poorly performed. I got a song request read out by Mark Kermode on Scala Radio.
Okay.
Which is exciting to me. Don't lean back like you're not interested.
I'm leaning back like I'm listening intently. Which is high, but I'm not. But
that's not what your body was suggesting to me. Mark Kermode is one of my.
It's suggested a lot of things to you over its time, but it's not suggested indifference ever.
So Mark Kermode, if you don't know who he is, he's Britain's well-known and trusted film critic, and he writes for The Observer.
Well-known and well trusted.
One of those, both of those, or better said. But he said my name thrice on internet digital radio, and it was just magical. My heart stopped to beat. I actually felt like crying.
That's how FLJS feels when I talk about he's calling me a CUNT. I think that's the same sort of thing. No, I'm pleased for you, mate. But
also,
there was a couple of things we wanted to get in at the beginning, because that guy who does that podcast thing, we want to get him in.
Yeah, I just want to
early.
I will, but I just want to tell you something that, like,
Was there another thing you got read out on radio?
No.
Okay.
You know my housemate.
Yeah.
All right. It's all right. Colleen's getting worried. He likes things to be in a particular place, right?
Yeah.
And he's not always right. Well, he's not right anytime, actually. Let's put it out there. So I share a flat, if anyone doesn't know, with another couple, and this guy, right? He's got very strange habits, like I've told you before. Like, you have to sit down. If you put something in the oven, you've got to sit down and monitor it and watch it so it doesn't set fire to the flat. Because if you don't know, Gary, it's all right. 40% of house fires start in the kitchen because of ovens being. You could tell I'm being a bit cautious now.
That is a dangerous place, I guess.
So we're I just saw that, and
Did you?
Oh, shut up! It's fine. And then another one. We found out, right? He's pretended to have mice. He told us that there's mice in the flat, so that we put our fruit bowl away in the cupboard.
Okay. Because
he doesn't like the fruit bowl being out on display. So he's come up with this whole.
Does he like cheese? Holes in it.
He's come up with this whole charade of having a fucking mouse. I mean, that's over the top, isn't it?
Is it? Well, how do you know there is a mouse? Okay, well, fair enough. I'll stop looking to your left, over your left shoulder. Your eyes. By the way, he's so anxious. He's so nervous.
The thing is, what's weird about Skype is everything else is heightened. Like, you're so aware of you're looking.
Sexual arousal. Yeah, absolutely. Everything's heightened.
I hope to never ever see that on air.
We would never see that.
Firmly toward the sky.
Absolutely. But basically, I will say we are doing episode 13 of the Ricky Gervais show that aired on XFM in 2002. And that's what we're doing today. Miles will do a little description for you, and then we'll come back with our first thoughts. But before that, we've been in touch with someone. Actually, he's done an amazing job, really. He's done a fantastic job. He has hosted on his own podcasting platform. I don't fully understand that, but it's hosted. Everything's hosted on.
Come on, Grandad.
And we got in touch with him, and he's going to put a link to our shows under each of his hosting of the XM shows, and we're gonna plug him in response. So what is his? You say what is his?
So
Platform?
he hosts everything on a Podrot, which is a it's just basically a site that you go on. You can listen to all of the shows, and you can download all of them as zip files, which is great little archive. We've often said
Brilliant.
it's probably the most valued thing I own that isn't a laptop. Is my sort of extensive library of these shows, because it's great. But not just that, it's now really exciting because the Ricky Gervais XFM shows are actually all on Spotify, courtesy of Podrot, and on Apple Podcasts for the first time, which is so exciting, because it's like a whole new, audience.
Generation
it's amazing, like to think that you could use this time to get on board with,
Yeah. And then 0.2% of them will come to our show and like it. But
0.3. Come on.
Well, 0.28, I think.
Yeah. So do head over to that, and I'll pop a link in the old bio, and you can listen to all those there. And
Miles, it's our first ever cross promotion.
Cross promotion.
How do you feel now we've done a cross promotion?
Well, actually, someone asked on Twitter, what's the best way to listen to the Trout Spinners podcast? Do you listen to
up, down, in a straitjacket in the psychiatric ward?
He's made a joke, ladies and gentlemen, the first joke of 2020. It's a good one. But my suggestion was, it's always listen to the episode first, then come back to us for a little debrief.
Yeah, I'd actually say maybe different. I'd say listen to us, then listen to episode. But yeah, either way around is good.
And if you're going to listen to anything, just listen to the XFM shows. Don't listen to this.
Don't listen to this shit. Honestly, don't. I just want to say hello to someone listening. It's a friend of mine, Duka.
Someone listening.
Duka's listening. I hope. She might not now. Duka's a friend of mine.
I don't want to dwell too much on this. You know how I feel about shameless self-promotion.
Yeah.
All right.
You know how you feel about me having friends. That's the thing.
Has she given me Has she given me us 5 stars on?
So that's so telling that you say me. She will have. But
has she 5 stars on Apple Podcasts? That's the only reason I'm interested.
She listens on Spotify.
Okay. She could head over to Apple Podcasts and see all the lovely reviews there as well, because that's great.
Yeah, because Duka is Duka's a friend of mine, and she's the only person that I know that I've told about this. So I've just had a conversation with her.
Your podcast is nothing to be ashamed of.
About boobs. She initiated it. Long story. Boobs and
go into it?
No, I don't. Thanks later. But I think that at the moment we're 3-star in Apple Podcasts. Apparently, we're officially a 3-star podcast. Yeah. Not everyone likes it. Not everyone likes what we're doing, and I'll be honest.
We thought of our work as at least a 2.5.
At least a 1.7 is what I've thought. But not everyone likes what we're doing. But listen, Mars. We do what we do. We do it as we see it. We take it as we see it. We do what we want to do.
Yeah.
If people like it, that's great. Obviously, not everyone's going to like it. And certainly, we've realised this week, not everyone does like it. So,
I'd rather do it to annoy that person.
Yeah, exactly.
God, turns out I'm actually not that great at dealing with criticism.
Yeah, Mars has messaged me every 7 hours, literally for the last 3 weeks, saying, telling me more about this person who was critical on Twitter, and he couldn't deal with it. And I chill out, You're
right.
I don't like criticism. No one likes it. But chill out. It's one.
Mate, I'm chill. I'm chilled as a cucumber, as they say.
Me a CUNT about 12 times before you were bothered about this.
But that's genuinely funny.
Yeah, exactly. It's not funny to me.
Okay, that's done and dusted now. We're going to move
Mars,
with the core body.
The episode we're doing. Give a little description of it, and I'll give my first thoughts, and then we'll go from there.
Love it. Okay, so this one was originally broadcast on the 16th of November 2002.
No, sorry, I'm joking.
Karl gets labelled a genius by Heat magazine. He talks about Auntie Nora's valances, and Karl also reveals a school picture of himself to Ricky and Steve. I also learnt the term succateurs because of this episode.
Oh, I've got that as a little quote thing, a little sort of unobvious quote that I like. I think this episode is a very good one. It can get, you might listen to this and think, well, you're always going to say it's a very good episode, but actually no, some episodes you don't. It's a very good episode relative to the other Ricky Gervais episodes that are good. It's very good. I would say this. Educating Ricky is absolutely back on form this week. It is a classic. And for the last few weeks, last 3 weeks, I think, it's not been that good. But this week, it's brilliant. And I know you'll have some quotes from there, as do I, which we'll come to later. And I think in general, there's no boxing talk this episode. Again, we were a bit, boxing thing. We weren't that keen on that. I think this is a really good episode. It's not perfect, but Mars, neither are we on it. So, but it's good. What do you think about the episode in general? What's your first thoughts?
Well, the thing is, because I often I really like the Educating Ricky, but because I've listened to the show so many times, Educating Ricky always gets ruined for me, and so they're never as funny.
Because you know them so...
Yeah, or like the 60th time or the 120th time I've listened to. So the Hippopotanuse is really... But then it's like... I like that story as a midget who gets swallowed whole by a hippo at a circus.
Do you know, that was actually a well-known, Shaggy Dog story. That never happened. And
obviously.
It was circulated. No, but it technically could have done, because he was so sure about it, and they did it on Christian. So
yeah, they did it on breakfast.
It adds authority to it, but it was actually, it never happened. It was something that was deliberately circulated on the internet to kind circulated. I said it right. See you later.
And that's also the Can You Believe It? Can You Believe It?
That's getting Ricky.
I knew that story as well for a long time before. When
I've seen it on QI actually. I've seen it on QI.
It's quite a well-known story, isn't it? Mike Chicken. The funniest bit is at the start when he goes, "We've talked a lot about animals without heads." It's like, no, we haven't.
No, we haven't. We've talked about one. But that's funny. That's funny.
I liked the bit at the start when they're going over Karl. Karl brings in a photo of himself at school, and he said you could get $4 for £1 at True Print or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Who remembers True Print?
I don't remember True Print.
And I just love that his dad says he thought they were expensive for what you got. I just thought, what an attitude to parenting that is. That
£1.
You wouldn't,
£1. He wouldn't do it. He wouldn't pay it.
I just thought that's a lovely example of parenting gone wrong. Just why not? And also, it just shows what sort of family. Because Karl just probably just accepted that, didn't he? He just went. That's what dads are like. It says they don't often give a shit about what kids do growing up, which is true. I mean, my dad certainly didn't, and.
No, my dad probably did, but probably was more interested in the Formula One Grand Prix that was going.
Well, I would even be more interested in that than your.
No, but but my dad was interested, but yeah, I think a lot of dads aren't as interested as mothers. But to be fair, my mum wasn't interested either. she was chasing skirt, as they say. She was. That's the
I'm enjoying this show today. I don't know what's something about you. You're a bit
yeah,
edgy today.
a bit
Edgy.
weird.
I actually feel really good today. I've had so much sleep. I had a
So
really good
much
night's sleep.
beer.
I do not drink much.
Oh, he's drinking right now. I can see him
Oh.
out there. You were saying that we might have a picture of us, like a proper picture of us, on our podcast.
Well,
I don't know about that.
We've never had a picture taken together.
No. Well, we. Why would we? We're not having sex with each other.
What? So no, that's not the only reason people have photos taken.
That's true. That is true to me.
No, I just thought it might be nice if listeners. This is like they're discussing whether Karl should be on the whether Karl should be on the artwork
poster. Yeah.
I really like the Rockbusters. For me, are some of the funniest Rockbusters that he's ever done.
They're pretty good. Yeah, they're not. I mean, the Madonna clue is very good. Madonna clue is very good.
Madonna is a really good clue, but then it's the Islastica.
Islastica. Yeah, that is a good clue because it's so shit.
Like Jamaican fella saying his lastic.
He did. Do you know? I was thinking that when I was listening back today. He should have said a Jamaican fella has lost his last badge, but he didn't. He just said a fella's lost his last badge. So if it had been a Jamaican fella, that would have been funnier. But I think the Rockbusters were good. There's a lot of good quotes in this episode. In general, it was one of the ones that entertained me more than the previous sort of 2 or 3.
What about the soil chat at the start? That's something that made me laugh a lot. And it's a good point actually. The fact that London's got like, I just like you go. Central London, Central London's good, but you go there and what's there? And you go, it's no DIY shops. There's nothing if you want like panini and a latte, you can't move for them. But if you want like it's a good point. But then would you want that in Central London?
Oh, I think there are places in Central London where you can get.
I'm sick and tired of not getting a decent compost on a Sunday.
But it's like, I think there are places where you can get compost. You would know. What's the report from Mars HQ? You know what?
Well, it's Stoke Newington. I bought a bin around the corner.
You killed a lot of plants. I know that.
I actually have potted a plant yesterday. A coriander. I get through coriander. I get through it. So I've actually planted a coriander plant.
Okay.
That filled a minute of speech, I suppose. That was good. I'm excited. It takes 3 to 4 weeks. Anyway, that's exciting. And by the by, I like.
It literally is. It's the definition of by the by. The definition of like that's not part of what I'm saying, but
Karl talks about.
I just wanted to tell you about my plant, but it's by the by.
Karl talks about the greatest city in the world being Rome. What is the greatest city in the world?
Well, I think probably from all the cities I've been to.
You're going to say Berlin.
I'm going to say Berlin. Back off a bit.
Soldier.
Listen, Berlin is great. It's got the police are lovely. They don't bother you.
Yeah.
Unless you're killing someone or, I was going to say something.
I hope so.
But, they used to be they used to be different in Berlin, but they're quite lenient now.
Germans, they're on top of everything, aren't they?
Yeah, Germans. I love Berlin, and I hate that you said I'd love it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I know you so well. I know him so well. Is that Barbra Streisand?
What's your favourite city?
Oh, that I've been to. Oh, I have to. That I've been to.
You don't have to have been to it, but yeah, you probably should.
Well, I wouldn't want to say. I have always had a thing about San Francisco. I feel like I would like San Francisco.
Mars, I think you'd like San Francisco. and you know what? I think Pete thinks you'd like San Francisco.
Well, I think you would. No, it's just something about like I like anywhere that's sort of chilled vibe, a bit sort of bohemian. I like arty places. I'll tell you what. In the UK, I obviously love Brighton,
Bristol,
but
Bristol.
I loved
I
Bristol.
knew you'd say Bristol.
Loved Bristol.
We knew what each other would say to this.
Yeah.
You only went to Bristol for a talk, and then you went straight back. You didn't see
No, no,
Bristol.
no, no, no. I went once before then with another friend.
Kalina,
No,
she's not a friend. God.
but no. Yeah, it feels like that sometimes. Oh, then New York, obviously, New York City. Like it was incredible. I just imagine if I had like a decent job there, I would have so much fun.
Yeah,
I
you'd
think
have
some
a lot of fun.
places kind of suit your situation though, aren't they? Like if you're single and young, certain places are great for you. Like Berlin would be great. But if you're older and maybe more relaxed,
I like to go to the Torture Gardens in Berlin. I do because I'm single, so I like to get
it's not
tortured.
dream going in torture gardens.
What?
There's no way you would go in torture
No,
gardens.
I never would go in torture gardens.
Would you go gambling?
Yeah,
Like, I
I've been to
hate
casinos.
I
Yeah.
hate people that talk about Las Vegas being their favorite place.
Well, I haven't done that, but I would go gambling.
No, but that's what I'm saying. But what about Las Vegas and Dubai? People love Dubai, and I
I'd
just
never
think,
go to
fuck you.
Dubai or Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I think FOJS would. Are you?
Anyway, we are so not talking about the show now.
Oh my God, we're so not talking about the show. What did FOJS say this week, by the way? Go on, read it. Read his comment out.
Well, this week we're not.
Yeah.
We're not. Well, he said, thank you for your podcasting services during this time. There are clapping noises coming out of the room for you guys every night. Now, I didn't know that every Thursday people go outside at 8 p.m. to clap Miles and Gary.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Bit of a joke.
Bit of a joke. That's a bit subversive, a bit naughty. Bit. I didn't realise you were going to joke
Bit
like that.
slagging off the NHS in a way as well, isn't it?
I like the FOJS clap stars, but I think you should be clapping the nurses instead. But thanks, FOJS. No, thank you. Thank you for your feedback. I appreciate it.
Going back to the show, when they're looking at, I like it when they talk about Carl's picture and they talk about his mum would take the photo and cut his hair by putting the newspaper.
Oh yeah.
But then not just that. There's what does it say there? Whilst they were sitting down on Sunday nights, just before last of the summer wine, and it really that reminds me of depressing Sunday nights before school.
Yeah.
I used to stay up late with my mum for no reason at all. It was just like
Antiques Roadshow would be on. That is true.
when they were an Antiques Roadshow house. What we were a heartbeat house. Heartbeat, why does the love stay in my memory? Oh, that was one of the dullest shows I've ever seen in my life.
There was not much jeopardy, I'll say that. But the thing about the home haircuts that Karl talks about, that's actually something we're all dealing with at the moment. We're all kind of dealing with home haircuts, and you will be soon. I know you have your hair. Like for me, already, I can't have a home haircut because I have no one here at home with me.
Who's ever got one? So please don't look at me like that.
Please don't look at me like that. I said, but yeah, I need my haircut soon, and I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know what to do.
Your hair is not long. You'll be all right.
It's long for me.
Yeah, but that doesn't make any. Who cares?
Well, I care. That's the point.
You shouldn't be worried about it.
Well,
you do.
Which
You do
look your carefree attitude to life.
Well, you know me. I'm a very chilled out entertainer kind of guy.
You're
so
literally the least chilled out entertainer I know. But go on.
The Rick Waller chat wasn't particularly a fan of that.
Do you know? Can I just say?
I feel like they do slag off Waller. And when he makes the joke like the attitude, which is a good pun.
I won't do it now, but I will at some point detail the features that Miles did on air on our radio show, and you will realise how hypocritical it is for saying it, because he absolutely went after people, and I'm not saying I never did.
Different times,
He
Gary. Different times.
He has changed so much. But I've actually got one of my favourite quotes. That's Rick Waller catching up. I love that. I think that's a funny
It's
quote.
all right.
Now,
It's all right.
No, hang on. You pretend that you don't like it, but that's a lie. Top 5 favourite quotes.
Okay, and number 5, it's Miss Dinnermate. But it's specific. It's a specific one. It's the second time that Karl says it's Miss Dynamite, like he's trying to convince them that it's actually a good clue. Miss Dynamite.
Miss Dynamite.
Miss Dynamite. He's like, and then he's like, if we're gonna keep doing this feature, we've got to change the words a bit. Like,
Yeah.
It's only been going for a little while, and he's already looking at change. And then Steve, quite rather excellent. He just starts laughing. He goes, Miss Dynamite.
Yeah. No.
That's up there with Islastica as well for me. I think they're amazing.
Both from this episode, of course. I do. I love Indy.
Yeah,
I do. I love Indy.
Well, then you'll love this. It's got Roy Scott on it, so.
Oh, that's one of my.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Oh.
But you know, it's got Roy Scott on there.
Do you know what's funny actually? So many of these quotes are either going to be, they're always going to be Karl or Ricky, aren't they? But do you think that's just a reflection of like Steve not talking as much or not having as much funny things to say?
I think it's a reflection of the fact that the main comedy, absolutely does come from Ricky and Karl, but Steve plays an important role, like the foil to their.
Yeah.
So what they're saying is actually funny sometimes because of what Steve has just said. It's not that Steve's quote isn't funny, but what Steve will say will be a foil to what one of them is saying and make what one of them is saying funnier. Whereas actually Steve's quote in itself isn't as funny. It's just a bit unfair on Steve, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're trying to get Steve on the show. Well, we will try. Then what else?
And number 4, it weren't properly.
It weren't properly. Properly.
Have you ever heard the term demicky as well?
No, I haven't. No, except for this show.
Like, it was a bit demicky, so it weren't properly.
It weren't properly. But he knows then. He's doing it deliberately to make it sound stupid. He is.
No, that's right. He's definitely
He
not.
absolutely is doing it to make it sound stupid. I promise you, he's saying it weren't proper.
No, he's not. He's trying to explain something, but he hasn't got the words to his disposal.
I think he's trying to make it sound. But yeah, it's a good. Yeah, I really do. I genuinely do. But it's not like he didn't set up the whole thing to make it sound stupid. But when they said that, what do you mean? Like he's like it wasn't properly. Like he knows that's not. You don't.
What's your next quote?
I just like this. This is a bit subtle. Okay, but if you're marking them on what they have, what as opposed to what? How you spell it. How you spell it.
I knew you'd
I love that.
I knew you'd do like one of the Ricky slurs.
How you spell it.
It's
It's not even a slur because it's like he just emphasizes the it. How you spell it.
I was reading a Guardian article.
Ooh. Sexy beast out there.
And I sent it to you actually in the week, and it was basically a review. It was kind of less on board with the second series of Afterlife, which is coming out soon. But it was interesting. The journalist in question was talking about.
He did like it though.
He didn't like it, but then he said
He liked the first series. I'm saying.
I don't think so. No,
But
he was basically saying, look, no disrespect to anyone that likes the Ricky Gervais stuff now. He says, but I was of the generation that grew up with The Office, and you know, he was the right time. You know, when things really, really do soak into you at a young age. And he was saying, you know, my personality has been affected for better or worse because I've affected Brentisms. You know? People, there are so many people that do it on there, like John Robbins does it all the time. He does the "soo" and the "wah."
But we all do. All our listeners and us do. We all do.
Yeah, but that must be so impressionable for a show. I know, like, see, Alan Partridge has the same effect on people, doesn't it?
Not really. No, not the same
Yeah,
as
but
as the others.
partridgisms are like, but that sort of nasally type. But loads of people love that.
Yeah, but
But
not
you
as many
can't.
as the Office. No,
No.
no,
And I think of, I don't know, In Between has probably been another one that's sort of
a little bit.
that sort of jovial kind of school slang. But yeah, what was my point? My point was no, I just think it's interesting to think yeah, there are people like us obviously who just love the Gervais back then and who acknowledge that there is a Gervais now, that people just there are two phases to his career.
Well, one example of that actually is one of my favourite quotes, which I was saying now. Like, so my a favourite quote of mine, and I'll explain after why this is like reminiscent of what you're saying. Like, I think he's lost a bit. I think he's 29 now.
Yeah,
Don't his
yeah,
head make him sound like a fat? Now, now,
yeah,
basically, he his suggestion of the word, just the C of the word cunt, is so much funnier than actually using the word. Now, I came to the conclusion that Ricky needs restrictions on him. Like, like
yeah.
in XFM, there's restrictions on him. He can't say that word. So saying is so it means so much. It is funny. Like it's funny without saying the word. The Office has restrictions on him because it's BBC Two. He can't say the cunt word, so he doesn't say it. The reason we're not reviewing the podcasts because it's not. He has no restrictions on him, and he says it all the time, and it's boring actually. Whereas here, it's interesting that he says, don't you sound like a fat. Whereas on the podcast, he would have just said "see you," and it's just not as.
Well, there's been
It's
times when
not.
he goes, "You
He
fucking
needs restrictions.
cunt of a," and you're just like,
He needs
really?
restrictions on him because if he hasn't got restrictions, I don't think he's as funny.
Do you
So
know a show I used to? Do you know a show I used to love? Like, I loved the
Moon,
first. Oh, you missed that. No, I used to love like Bo Selector and Little Britain. But
yeah,
the moment they got a third series, it was just swearing and outrageousness. And I am the biggest prude. Like I'm very prudish.
yes,
And I really can't get on board with this stuff. You know,
yeah, because
this vulgarity.
Rock Profiles was brilliant. Like we
Yeah,
both love
amazing,
Rock
amazing.
Profiles. Like, it's so much better than anything Little Britain ever did.
Yeah.
But they weren't well known then. And again, they had restrictions on them. Whereas, Little Britain, when you become successful, you don't have as many restrictions, so you can show an elderly person pissing in the supermarket, and it's supposed
Yeah.
to be funny, and it's not. It's not that funny.
But some people will always find that stuff funny, won't they?
Yeah, FOJS. Oh, sorry. Yeah, go on. No, I'm joking. FOJS. If you're
So then
listening,
my
if you're listening, FOJS, don't only call me CUNT again. I'm only joking. You're a part of the you're a part of the furniture here. So
at number 3, it's Karl. Well, that's the teaser in it. That's what we're leaving with. Ricky, will it be any good? Tune in.
will it be
Next
any
week.
good?
Got an
Will it be
XFM
any good?
104. Can you remember the XFM9 phone number?
No, I can't remember.
I'm trying to remember it now. Email in if you know.
Email in, yeah. Well,
Uh,
what's the email? There is no email address. We
oh
don't
no,
have
tweet us at Trout_D. Gary set up the Twitter account.
worst Twitter account name ever, and it was my fault. I can't understand. Usually,
You'd love,
I'll be
you'd love to
furious
blame
at
someone, wouldn't you?
Mars. Yeah, like Mars. Like I blame Mars for the theme music, which should definitely be something else. But I don't blame him for the Twitter account because that was me.
I didn't come up with that was your decision. For
No,
the theme
the
music.
theme music should be Kellerton Road. I'm telling you now. And actually, if any listeners are listening and you have any thoughts on that, get in touch. I think it should be Kellerton Road. The Kellerton Road thing. And Mars is insistent that it shouldn't be. And you're wrong. But anyway, go on.
All right. Number 2 was the mother-in-law impressed
Was the mother-in-law impressed?
because he's talking about Carl builds up the fabric of this story, saying that Mike the chicken was actually killed to impress the mother-in-law.
Yeah.
And then he forgets this detail, and Steve goes, I think everyone wants to know, was the mother-in-law impressed?
Was the mother-in-law impressed? Well, I've got one on that actual story, which was I just always have loved this from Ricky. Like, well, it wasn't fed up at all because it had no brain. And he does that thing. He does the thing with brain where he sort of emphasizes it. Well, it wasn't fed up at all because it had no brain. and that's so true from Ricky. Like, of course it wasn't fed up. It had no brain. It wasn't fed up.
Yeah. And my number, I've said that in so many scenarios, and
Went long.
it went. If someone just says the word long, or that was long, or that's okay, just go. It went long. It went. I think with the Ricky Gervais show, like so many of these quotes are just they're often like what you find genuinely funny, like what like matches with your personality, but also just I get it all the time with me and my mum, just when things just make you giggle for uncontrollable reasons, and that can be like that's different for a lot of people, isn't it? But I just like that. It's actually really nice to see, but on Twitter, and we are going to come back actually with our regular feature, which is XFM in the community, and it's a nice one this week actually.
XFM in the community. Basically, it's XFM in the community, except the prick who slagged us off, like just without any praise whatsoever.
I hope he listens. It's actually very encouraging to see like loads of NHS workers, health workers, and key workers are listening to the shows to Oh, you better mean that, clap.
I do mean it.
Because I'm not having that. I'm not having that on my podcast.
Oh, welcome back to the Trout Sprinters podcast. I'm Gary Forrestal. I'm with Ms. Mars now. And we've gone through the show. We've kind of gone through the bits we want to go through. Now we're going to go through a feature where we basically say a listener feedback that happens during the show. Mars does it all. Mars monitors all this. I don't do any of it. So it's called XFM in the community. And what have you got, Mars, for us today?
Well, this was from Peter Goff.
Oh, well, we should have read, by the way, I want to say we should have read this out 2 shows ago. We absolutely should have done.
So Peter Goff, he said, good pod. Same about the standard of the recent guest, referring to
his good friend, Richard Anderson.
Yeah, he said good interview. And I didn't know that Peter Goff was an actual friend of Rich Anderson. That was a nugget of information that we uncovered in our interview.
I know, but you still refused to read it out because Mars read that and he thought it was criticism of the show, of the interview, but it wasn't. It was Peter Goff like taking the piss out, like.
So I'm glad you enjoyed it, Peter.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it, Peter. Mars monitors it all, so Mars does this bit. Go on, what have you got?
Oh.
I'm just saying, it's true. Yeah.
So last episode, you asked everyone their favourite best Karl laughs.
I sort of did, yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Dilkington says, "All right, Kirsty."
Yeah, that's. No, Karl doesn't laugh there, actually.
He does a bit.
Does he? I think he laughs a lot there. That's one of my favourite Karl moments, but I wouldn't call it a Karl laugh.
Yusuf and Andrew Lowe both said 86.
86, yeah, 86. He does laugh there.
That's also one of my best Ricky moments, because 86, that's a better name for the monkey.
It's a better name. Right, this monkey's not going to drive in the way of that car, Karl, or we're never doing this again. That I love that moment.
So Nick T says definitely. Yes, Pump four. That's the name of the manga. Nick T says, definitely the monkey news about the prostitute monkey.
Oh,
Either
yeah,
that
he
or
does laugh there, absolutely.
either that or the Australian fella calling to get free armbands for Bowie, which
Yeah,
was in another episode that we talked about. So do check that out as well.
it's episode 7 or something like that, I
Something
think.
like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Who was that who read that comment out?
Which one? Oh, a Nick T. Sorry.
A Nick T. Good one. Yeah, absolutely. The trying to get armbands for Bowie is very funny. And what was the other one he said?
The prostitute monkey.
Prostitute monkey. Again, yeah, Karl really laughs at that one. Yeah.
Brainwashed 13G. This is a new listener, and he commented on our YouTube thread. And a reminder to listeners: if you can't listen on Apple Podcasts or on Gary Smiling, or on Spotify, the shows are on YouTube now. I've been
I
put
put them all on myself.
Steve.
Mustard.
He said, very interesting podcasts. You guys are very interesting podcast. You guys are really dedicated XFM show fans. Other people don't think so, but thank you. Dickie Anderson, the legend himself.
Some other people don't think. Did Richard Anderson comment?
No, he said Dickie Anderson, the legend himself.
Oh, I see. I thought you.
There's been Andrew Lowe has been in touch, and he very kindly he's an author on Twitter, and he said XFM shows keeping me relatively sane at the moment. So your run throughs are like little debriefs. Love the Randa special. Really, lot of positive people reacting to the of Richard Anderson, and I think for good reason. You know?
That's clearly always going to be our biggest show in terms of listenership, in terms of everything, and it was a special show to do. I think we both enjoyed it. I think we both liked doing that.
Yeah, you'd be right in saying that, Gaz.
Sorry?
I don't know what I'm trying to say. So, to wrap this one up, this is from Yosef, a slightly longer one, and he's reacting to something that we spoke about a few episodes back. And he says, hi chaps, interesting theory you have about Merchant being responsible for the emotional intelligence and Gervais the more brutally witty stuff in their writing. I've always looked at Derek, which was ludicrously emotional to the point of being schmaltzy, and to a lesser extent Hello Ladies, the series, which could be quite biting and heartless at times, as evidence to the contrary. Not saying you're wrong. In fact, Derek could be used as an example of how Gervais tries to emulate Merchant's ability to write an emotionally compelling narrative and completely bollocks it up.
Is that his? Yeah. Listen, I've always got time for Yusuf. I think he's a fantastic commentator. He's saying that Hello Lady. Basically, I think the fact that I would say that Derek and to an extent Afterlife are both examples of where Gervais does do an emotional narrative. He does do it, but he doesn't do it well. So Hello Ladies is not like, Hello Ladies, I guess, is Merchant's not trying to have an emotional narrative there. He's trying to be as cutting, as sharp and as witty without having an emotional narrative as possible. But I do think that probably Steve did have that emotional narrative to The Office and Extras, whereas Ricky didn't. However, I will think about. I've only just heard that what you just said. You read it a while ago, but of what you just said, I'll think about that and think about and kind of come back with something next week. But I think that I don't think he's wrong. I still think that Ricky can't sustain an emotional narrative, whereas Steve probably can, even though Steve doesn't do it in his stand-up work, which you kind of wouldn't expect him to do. But again, very interesting comment, Yusuf, and I'll think about that.
I just think if it was anyone else, that these plot contrivances that Gervais puts into his narratives, the fact that it's a woman with cancer and she's sitting there, and I can't remember the actress, but she is great, and she's there, and he's watching old videotapes, and she's basically, as a voice from beyond the grave, essentially telling him how to live his life. And it's like, you could have done that in another way. Why does it have to be an old VHS tape where she so clearly has been suffering from chemotherapy with a headscarf on? I find I find that very cliche and a bit contrived, to be honest. And there are so many other ways of doing that. And he goes on about dogs. Yeah.
Afterlife, yeah.
And I don't like that. And the whole, like, the scenes where I've seen from the latest trailer where he's in this little suburb. He's in Hampstead Heath for a start, which is ludicrous. Like, I don't know, it's just annoying that he's still
famous people, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, he's meant to be down on his luck. It's like, well, that's just Ricky Gervais, isn't it? That's just Ricky Gervais. That's not the character he's pretended to be. But then he's like sharing the one that got me is when he's just sharing a bottle of wine with another famous actress. I still can't remember those names, and just sharing a bottle of red wine directly out of the bottle while sitting in front of a grave in a cemetery. Like, no one does that. Like, if that was someone else, I would believe it. Like, if that was,
People do that. I don't know. I think people do that. I just don't.
But they do. But Ricky's not the one to do it.
His character that Ricky Gervais writes necessarily would do that, but that's just me. I don't know.
It's too convenient. That's what I'm saying. It's too convenient.
Because when you're producing something for a mass audience, it's like it's kind of fallen into the Miranda trap. Of like, Miranda had an incredibly successful series that we both disliked intently, but she did have that successful series. So he's kind of fallen into that trap of being like, well, I'll just produce this for the most mass market of people I can possibly do. And, the house he bought from it, is incredibly big. So I saw that on a documentary, and it was like ridiculously big. And I guess that's why it's sad and it's a shame, but it's not The Office, and I don't think anything he ever does ever will be.
To wrap things up, Ricky Gervais.
Oh, sorry.
Ricky Gervais has been he's been doing these live sort of streams every day. I haven't watched them, partly because I can't stand just to listen to him talk, but. There was a couple of interesting things that I noted, and I just wanted to get your thoughts, Gary Forrestal, on them. So this is on Ricky Gervais on celebrities and lockdown. Then I see people complaining about being in a mansion with a swimming pool, and honestly, I don't want to hear it. That's on him, like, looking at a video of Sam Smith, who was crying.
No, he's absolutely right. Yeah, he's right about that. The first thing about Ricky, like, whatever we think of him now, he's got a good take on certain things. Like, the thing about Ricky is, if you agree with Ricky on something, you're so with him, you're so absolutely behind him. If you don't agree with him, you're not. But he can say stuff in a way that makes you really agree with him and really genuinely be behind him. So that I'm behind him all the way.
Okay, there was another one where it was Ricky, and he talked a little bit about Carl Pilkington and the recording of An Idiot Abroad. One of the critics in the tabloid saying it was ball achingly dull. About An Idiot Abroad, and Karl was going, that's on one of the Homecoming episodes where he goes, how can something be that boring when you go, oh, your balls are aching about it. But he's also he reads out a few of the reviews of Afterlife. But if anyone's a fan of Ricky and likes his stand-up, he does talk about Twitter a lot, like as one of his prime subject matters. But in this YouTube video that I saw, he talked a lot about sort of people slagging his work off. At one point, he says, bring it on, talking about critics. But then he talks about critics to an extent where you think that he goes on and about it, like he's like, bring it on. But in a way, you are affected by it by doing so. So to the point where to make an earlier point, I was upset about that guy, but
Oh yeah, you were, yeah.
yeah, and it's like, but then you shouldn't give it a mention. You shouldn't even talk about it, which you're right by that, and Ricky is to an extent, but he's still talking about it. And the best thing you can do with critics, same with critics of Donald Trump as well. I'm not getting all political, but I'm saying the best thing you can do is just ignore it. Don't give it the time of day. Don't acknowledge it. Treat it like it was never said, and no one gives a shit about it. Because every time you talk about a criticism, you're giving it power. You're giving it, that currency.
You've given him power about 28 times this week to me, because you've talked about it that many times.
Yeah, no, I'm saying I'm part of the same gang. I'm not legitimizing what he's. I'm saying I'm in the fault as well.
Yeah.
Don't smile like that.
I'm not.
I know, but it's a very true point about critics generally. Like, you shouldn't. You're either with, because you would love them if they said something good about you, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Anyway.
I do love them. They say a lot of good things about me. It's just you. But so yeah, I think that was good. That was a good XFM in the community section. I like that.
To sum up, this has been the Trout Spinners podcast. I have been Miles Pennell. With me,
you say it,
Gary Forrestal.
Yeah,
Do
me.
like and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Give us a rating if you're kind enough, and also tweet us at Trout_D.
Pathetic name, pathetic, and it's my fault. It's me. I did it.
Anyway, however you're getting through this lockdown, and for however long we'll be under these restraints, do stay safe. Do continue listening, and I hope these podcasts bring you something, if not an hour of nice hoovering and accompaniment.
Oh, could I just say, my friend Duka, she listened and she said, she meant it as a compliment. She said, I listened to your podcast. She said, I was really struggling to sleep, and she said, I turned your podcast on and I fell straight asleep. And that's what
that's
she meant.
Amazing.
But her compliment, what she was saying was like, it was so relaxing that she fell asleep.
Yeah, that's what she said.
I said we'll put that on the posters, send you straight asleep. Each has been straight asleep.
And on that note, see you later.
See you later. Bye.